Have you been looking to get into odd time signatures, but you're not really sure which song you should start with? This one right here, right in there. This is a cut. And oh, what's it? Oh, it's Foo Fighters. Sounds like these. Hello there, my name is Will and welcome along to another drum lesson where today I'm going to be teaching you how to play a drum beat from the song Times Like These by the Foo Fighters. In particular, we're looking at the 7/4 groove that happens at the beginning of the song along with the main riff. This is an awesome place to start if you're just getting into odd time signatures, so let's get into this one and break this thing down. So to kick things off, I think it's really useful to quickly define what the word time signature actually means. Like, what is a time signature? If you're someone who's been learning to play the drums by just instinct and playing along with songs, as weird as it sounds, you might not have ever actually had to count it as what you're playing. That's totally fine. So many drummers are in that boat. However, if you want to learn how to play in odd time, it's really useful to understand how a time signature works. A time signature is used to help us keep count of where we are in the music. It tells us how many beats there are in a bar, and it can help us to understand what kind of musical phrase we're actually playing in the song. Typically, if you've been playing a lot of pop, rock, or westernized music, you've probably been playing the drums in what's known as 4/4 time. This means that there are 4 beats to every bar. So every time you count to 4, you restart your count and start playing at 1 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I was to write that time signature down, I would have 2 numbers. One number at the top, which in this case is 4, and one number at the bottom, which in this case is also 4. Now the top number of a time signature is what number you count up to. So if I had a number of, let's say, 5, and I was playing in 5/4 time, I would count up to 5 before restarting my count back to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, that top number in theory could be any number at all, whereas the bottom number is only ever likely to be 4, 8 or 16. That is because the bottom number is telling you what rate that you should count the top number at. So when you play in 4/4 time, it's actually telling you to play 4 beats per bar at a rate of 4 quarter notes, also known as crotchets. Those are the same thing, they just have 2 different names. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and in fact, the name quarter note actually comes from dividing up the bar into 4 quarters. If you were playing in a time signature of 4/8, you will be counting those 4s at a rate of 1/8 notes, also known as quavers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. If it was 4/16, you'll be playing at a rate of 16th notes or semi-quavers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. At the beginning of times like these, Foo Fighters are playing in 7/4. This means there are 7 beats to the bar before the pattern resets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you're counting 7 beats at a rate of quarter notes, which doesn't really make any sense because we were dividing the bar up into 7, and obviously that's not quarters, that's sevenths, which is why it's kind of silly that we call them quarter notes, but it's just one of those odd things with the English language where we apparently have adopted this way. All the semantics aside, I think it's important to understand how a time signature works, but don't worry, if you're still getting to grips with it, you'll still be able to crack this drum beat as we move on in the lesson. So although the drum beat in times like these is played in 7/4 time, we're going to start things off by playing in 4/4 time, just because I feel like the timing and the feel of it will be more comfortable to then transform into a 7/4 groove. So to begin with, I want you to play a 2-bar phrase made up of 2 different drum beats. The first drum beat is going to have a bass drum landing on 1, 3, and the and of 3, with our snare landing on 2 and 4 as we play in 1/8 notes. The second bar of the phrase is going to have a bass drum landing on 1 and the and of 2. The snares are still landing on 2 and 4 of the bar. You're then going to want to play these two bars together, and once you get to the end of that second bar, loop round and start it over and over again. Once you have those two bars down, see if you can play them one after another and loop them around endlessly to practice. So we have our 2-bar phrase, and we're going to see if we can transform it into 1 bar of 7/4. And we're going to do this by focusing in on the second drum beat that you just learned in the previous step. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to move the snare drum that we had landing on 4, this was the second one in your bar, and we're going to bring it a whole beat forward to land on the 3rd beat of the bar. So now we have 1 and 2 and 3 and we're going to stop there. And we're going to stop there because we're actually going to lop off and get rid of the 4th beat of the bar. It's gone. And it means that you're now playing in a bar of 3/4 time. And it also means that if we partner that with the first bar of your 2-bar phrase, we would add things up. 4 plus 3 is 7, and it would give us a 7/4 phrase. If you have those two phrases down together, the next challenge is to see if you can immediately restart the pattern after that and of 3 in that second bar. If you can do that, you're there. You're playing in 7/4. If this is the first time you ever played in 7/4 and an odd time signature, congratulations. I'd advise looping that a lot to get really used to that feel. And once you have that down, we can add the rest of the kind of characteristics that make it sound more like Times Like These by the Foo Fighters. So we're playing in 7/4, fantastic stuff. But for a moment, I still want you to think about it as 2 different phrases. As once again, I'm going to slightly alter what happens in that second drum beat. Now this time, we're going to look back at that last snare drum, the one that lands on 3. And rather than playing it with both hands together, I want you to bring your right hand down to the snare for 3. We're actually then going to change this phrase. Instead of 3 and, like we were playing before, we're going to play 3 and. And you can play that as right, left, right. That's with the E landing on the snare and the right hand going back up to the hi-hat for the and of 3. That would then mean that our second phrase now sounds like this. If we then partner that alongside the first drum beat that you play in the phrase, and then we drop that gap and see if we can loop it so we're back in 7/4. It's worth knowing at this point that we are full on just playing in 7/4 right now, so good on you. So to get this 7/4 really sounding like the drum beat from Times Like These, we're going to basically fill in the gaps. In this drum beat, any of the hi-hats that you're hitting that are not with the snare drum are going to be with a kick drum. So basically just put all the bass drums in all of those spare hi-hats that you have in the groove. Now you might find that when you do that, you kind of lose track of whereabouts you are. If that's the case, what I would try to do is once again, split your 7/4 groove into 2 different drum beats, the ones we've been looking at, and take away the last bass drums of each bar. So that's the bass drum that lands on the and of 4 in your first phrase, and the bass drum that lands on the and of 3 in your 3 and. These bass drums do a really good job of disguising where the drum beat starts and ends, but it can be kind of confusing if you're learning to play this for the first time. So what I would do is just take those bass drums out for just a little bit, leave those spare hi-hats in there and loop the phrase with more bass drums, but not quite all of them. And then when you feel comfortable, you can then bring them back in. Another top tip, if you do have all those bass drums in there, you can actually mark the top of the bar with a crash symbol to keep track of where the beat is beginning and ending. Once you've got it down though, it's time to get the foot cramp on and start speeding things up to the speed of the song. So you're there, you can play the main drum beat from the song, right? Right? There's not like an awkward drum fill that happens on the fourth measure of the riff. Right? Unfortunately, there is, but don't worry, I'm gonna help you break it down. So the fourth measure through, the fourth time round that you play the riff at the beginning of this song, you'll notice there's this slightly what feels quite awkward drum fill to play. And to break this down, we're once again gonna break that 7/4 thing down and put it into two different bars. This time, our bar of 3/4 drum beat is about to become our bar of 3/4 drum fill. Rhythmically, first of all, we would understand playing this pattern as 1 and a, 2 E and 3 and. Round the drums, that would sound like this. However, we need to change the orchestration to be closer to what's played in the Foo Fighters song. So we're going to bring the bass drum in with the hi-hat on 1. That means the first beat of the bar goes 1 and a. Then we're just going to play the bass drum on its own for 2 E and. It gives us kick E and. And if you can, I would play this kick left right. You'll find out why in just a second. Put together, those two rhythms sound like this. To finish off this drum fill, we're going to put our right hand and the bass drum together on 3 of the floor tom, and then on the and of 3, we're going to hit the crash and the snare, giving us this. So now that orchestration all put together, now the really tricky thing here is that Taylor Hawkins actually played 8th notes with the right foot. So your bass drum up until 3 is playing 1 and 2 and 3, and then it actually stops for the crash and snare hit together. So some of these hits on the snare and the rack tom are going to be with the bass drum, which is why I'd advise when you get to the 2 E and going kick left right, because you'll find it more natural to hit your bass drum with the right hand. So with those bass drums added in, that's going to give the phrase this sound. If I then partner that with the first bar phrase that we've come to know and love, and then straight out of the end of 3, you've got to get back on it to be back in your regular groove of 7/4. So I'll A and B this for you. I'll play this quite slowly. 1 bar without the drum fill, 1 bar with the drum fill. That can take a bit of time to get used to how that feels, but once you have it, you can play it to the full speed of the song, and hopefully you're playing along with the 7/4 part of Times Like These by the Foo Fighters. Hopefully from watching this lesson, you now have a better idea of how to play Times Like These by the Foo Fighters, and you've also learned what a time signature is and how to play in 7/4 time. If you did get something from this lesson, please do me a massive favor and please hit that like button, and why not subscribe to the channel whilst you're here as well. Let me know in the comments any songs or any drum beats you'd like me to break down and teach you. And until next time, my name is Will, and I'll see you again soon.